Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know that after the inspiring speeches of the Minister and my distinguished colleagues and panelists at the dais, Professor Vaidyanathan ji and Devdas ji, uh, it is a tough act to follow, but I would like to uh, take you through this presentation, especially in the context of small and medium enterprises in India. Swamiji gave me this topic that what SMEs want, and that's a daunting task. And I would say that if you ask this question to SMEs, this is what they would say. They want the world, and literally so. What to expect from this presentation? First of all, I'll take you through quickly that what is the background in the case of small and medium enterprises in India, their key pain points, the initiatives the new government has taken as well as the previous government, especially in the last couple of months. Proposition that I have for today for your suggestions and comments. And this is how I begin. Micro, small and medium enterprises in India are defined on the basis of investment in plant and machinery. So land and building is excluded. The numbers, as Professor Vaidyanathan also has mentioned, and also by Devdas ji, he mentioned 48 million. I am giving you a figure of 45 million because it's 2011 and 12. But if you add 2012-13, this is approximately 48 million. 48 million enterprises creating job around 100 million. So you can say that is approximately 2 people per unit. It's not a great number, but the aggregate number is very large. What is important is the fact that 95% of them are really micro enterprises, and 97% of them are proprietorship partnership firms. As Professor Vaidyanathan also mentioned about unincorporated segment, as a matter of fact, Indian MSMEs are one small subset of the unincorporated segment that Professor Vaidyanathan has explained. The fact remains that less than 5% of them have access to the banks, and yet, in spite of all these constraints, they account for almost half of industrial production and half of India's exports, if you include both direct exports as well as indirect exports. The key pain points remain 5. Professor Vaidyanathan mentioned it. The access to finance remains a big issue. Access to commercial and industrial space is an even larger issue, and as a matter of fact, because they do not, a majority of them do not have authorized space to work, so majority of them would not have access to finance also. They are interrelated. So when they would approach to the bank and say that, I am working in an unauthorized colony or unauthorized area, bank is not going to entertain their application. Access to technology also is an issue. But again, it is also related to industrial space and cost of capital. Ease of doing business. Professor Vaidyanathan again mentioned that, the kind of environment we have. World Bank does an annual survey called Ease of Doing Business. We rank almost 142, almost lowest, even lower than Sierra Leone in ease of doing business. So, clearly there is so much ground to cover. But the issue that I am going to discuss here is with regard to access to markets. That again is also a major issue, both at the domestic front as well as international. Some of the initiatives that had been taken recently on access to finance, this current government has recently established a committee, this called KV Kamath Committee. Professor Vaidyanathan is also a member of that committee, including my organization, FISME. Then access to commercial industrial space, there are a lot of initiatives that are being talked about. Although, to be honest, we don't have yet a specific policy for the MSMEs, and because of lack of access to industrial space which is affordable and which is authorized, it is going to be extremely difficult for a large number of MSMEs to graduate from, you can say, from unregistered enterprises or informal segment to the formal segment. On ease of doing business, again, the previous government established a Damodaran committee. I was a member of that committee also. They had made several recommendations also. But unfortunately, it's not just the brain, you need also the backbone, to support, as they say. So the ideas alone are not enough. Fortunately, the current government has started taking some immediate steps, and one of them being that in India, small and medium enterprises did not have any revival and exit route, insolvency and bankruptcy procedures. So the Ministry of MSME very quickly came out with a draft, and it has been put on the website for wider consultation, and we hope that in the next coming months, we would have a mechanism for a revival and exit for small and medium enterprises also. As I said, that today I'm going to talk about access to markets and have a specific suggestion to make. Access to market, when we are saying international, as you know, the trade is at the heart of the prosperity of every nation. When India was really prosperous, as they sone ki chidiya, we traded far and wide, both eastward and westwards. For over 1,000 years, however, the trade routes have really dwindled, and now India is still struggling to rebuild many of them. I'm aware that, Government of India, as somebody has said also, that not only look east policy, but act east policy. And a lot of initiatives are being talked about that how to revive the route that goes via Myanmar to Thailand and to other countries. And there is a dream that, you can take a bus maybe in the evening in Agartala and have your breakfast in Bangkok sometime soon, maybe in 4 to 5 years' time. 45 million MSMEs, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, and less than 0.5% of them are in exports, and yet they account for almost half of industrial exports. Just imagine if almost 5 to 10% of MSMEs start exporting or enter into exports, what kind of transformation they will have, not only in terms of exports from India, but also the positive learnings that would come in India and in the MSME sector. And that is the crux of my presentation. Why participation in international trade exports is important to SMEs. I give 4 or 5 quick reasons, and then I move on to my proposal. First of all, today, as you know, that all subjects are subjected to the discipline of imports. Because of WTO, markets are open, everything can be imported. So today, the competition, whether you are sitting in a small city or whether you are working from Delhi or north or south or wherever, or whichever product you talk about, ultimately the competition has one dimension, and that is international. So when you participate in international trade, particularly exports, this is the most important and most effective gauge that whether you are competitive internationally or not. If you have been able to export continuously, then chances are most likely that your product is competitive internationally. Secondly, it also gives you an opportunity to choose the market. See, typically, remember, there is an adage that you tell me tell me your friend, and I'll tell you that what kind of personality you are. The similar question or similar, you can say, analogy could be applied here, that tell me the buyer and I'll tell you who you are. So tell me the kind of market that you are servicing, and that would tell you the kind of products you are making, the quality standards you are adhering, and so on. So I think that gives a great opportunity, or you can say an option to SMEs, that when they participate in international trade, they can choose the kind of market they want to serve, whether they want to go for higher volumes or whether they want to have the higher profit markets. Then also it gives you an early warning for change like consumer behavior, technology, and standards. And finally, learnings of best practices, new horizons, opportunities. MSMEs in international trade, these are 3 major problems that they encounter. I myself started my career as export manager in a medium-sized company before joining FISME almost 17 years back. So I know some of these things, that these were the major pain points as small and medium enterprises would encounter. First is the high cost of exploring foreign markets. Because longer stays are needed, you have to be there, present in the market, near to the markets, understand their dynamics, logistics, and so on. But the cost is prohibitive, and it's a sunk cost. Because at the end of the day, you might decide that, well, this is not the kind of market I would like to serve. So it becomes a sunk cost. So there's always, a risk involved. The second is unavailability of Indian food, language, and problems like these. But most importantly, they find that there is a lack of supporting system available for Indian SME. In the morning session, most of the people you were here, Dalai Lama made a very, very important point. He said that, everywhere you go, you see Chinatown. But when you go abroad, you don't find India town. The point that he was trying to make is that Chinatown is nothing but a support system for a Chinese when he goes there to do business. And people who are, people like you who are coming from different countries, they can vouch for it, that in Chinatown, a Chinese can have everything. You can have visa system, foreign exchange support systems, buying and selling, sometimes legal and sometimes even illegal services are available within the confines of the Chinatown. I'm not advocating that we do exactly the same thing, but the most important point is that we need to create some support system for MSMEs particularly when they go out and abroad, and this is what my proposal is. A concept of Bharat Vasa. Vasa, I have taken, is basically vas, a house, a place to live. And this is modeled on the concept of the Marwari Vasas. Marwari community typically, I have been interacting with them and working them for almost 15, 16 years, and have seen that how in initial phases, Marwari Vasas created, you can say, they were the single most important factor in helping Marwaris move from one place to another and quickly give them opportunities. So it is basically a home away from home. It would provide food and shelter, secured. It's a learning center because other Marwaris are also there, or you can say other business community members are also there. They're always talking business. Third, business support is there with the local diaspora. And a socio-cultural hub, ultimately it becomes. And most important thing is that it is a self-sustaining business case. Marwari Vasas were a business case. So is the Bharat Vasa could be a business case. What kind of services we could expect? We could expect that frugal but comfortable lodge, Indian vegetarian food, bhojanalayas could be associated with this, office support, database of consultants, local consultants, service provider, but most importantly, the networking with a local Indian business community. We have Mr. Devdas here. So for example, if he's in Bangkok and we have a Bharat Vasa in Bangkok, and you know that which are the best consultants available in Bangkok for specific 1, 2, 3 type of services. And there is a cultural system, or it becomes a cultural hub also, like people who are coming from India, preachers and other players, they also keep organizing programs in the hub. So it becomes a hub and spoke kind of a model, where this becomes a cultural, a socio-cultural hub, an economic hub for the Indian community that are living there in a particular place. Where from to begin? I'm proposing that we can begin first of all starting from East Asia and Southeast Asia. Swan Bhumi, as they say, he comes from Thailand, and the name of the airport is Swan Bhumi. In most of our scriptures, this particular region, East Asia and Southeast Asia, is mentioned like Swan Bhumi, and very rightly so. So we can begin with Swan Bhumi and expand from the UK, USA, and Canada, and later maybe Mexico, Brazil, and other countries. For whom it could be, preference could be, of course, as I am mentioning, for Indian small business owners, traveling spiritual and religious teachers, students, local Indian community. It could, of course, add many things like, as I said, could evolve as a hub for spreading activities, both cultural, economic, and religious, could also be used in different Indian cities in India to integrate. It could become a global network, like a Bharat Vasa Sangh, both of cities, country, and global, but that's later part. Funding. Funding could be through membership, yearly and lifetime, pay-as-you services, pay-as-you-use services, like you can go there, stay there for a day or one month. Branding could be like some Bajaj, Bharat Vasa Kendra or whatever, and there could be sponsorships also. Thank you very much, and I would welcome for your comments and suggestions.